Hello, everyone. My name is Baylan Megino, the founder of Global Dream Makers and the creator of the Dream Maker Matrix. I'm absolutely honored today to have our guest. Ell Graniel is coming to us from Central America, right, Elle?
I'm in Mazatlan right now. I do travel a lot. I'm in Mazatlan, Mexico.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. So welcome to the Leader's Edge.
You.
Let me tell them a little bit about you. So Ell Graniel brings over 25 years of experience in the neuroscience behind our synapse, receptor, and reward centers of the brain. She has her degree in communication, training and certifications in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, negotiation, personality type predictors, and she's authored 3 international best-selling books. Her most recent, The Team Whisperer, Successfully Lead a Cross-Generation Race and Gender Team, focuses specifically on mastering communication. The success of her coaching comes from the blend of the relationship between all this knowledge, coupled with being one of only a dozen people on the planet certified in the process of transformational meditation. Elle is the founder of True Speak, and her motto is say what you want, the truth is in you. So again, welcome, Elle.
Thank you. And happy to be here because when you talk about dreams and dream makers, and then you add that with global, which is what you do, right? Think globally, but act locally. So, I know what you do and I see what you do and how you get this great ripple effect. So to be here is a privilege. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say because what you are bringing, especially your Team Whisperer book, is
Mhm.
talk about timely, talk about perfect for what is happening in the world today. And did it come to mind during the lockdown, or how did that book come to be?
That's a good question. A lot of folks wrote a book during the lockdown.
Mm.
And this book, so I have an agent, and on my previous book, because I'm a long-time fitness professional, Get Happier and Healthier Now, was on how to be healthy without counting calories and steps and all that, because I have, you know, almost 40 years in the fitness industry. But what I was finding as a leader is that people, and this was like pre the lockdown, and still now, even though things are virtual or remote, so many people don't love their job. They're looking forward to retirement. They know it just pays the bills. They're looking forward to the next vacation, paid holiday, paid time off. And to me, that's heartbreaking that someone would spend their life doing something they don't enjoy. And so my experience is that has to do with leadership. If you have an inspiring boss, then you're inspired to show up. And so my goal was for me to be able to have leaders so that people wake up in the morning and don't go, ugh. People wake up in the morning and they're like, I enjoy my job, I enjoy my leader, I enjoy my position, I enjoy I enjoy the work that I do. And so that's what prompted me. So, between my research in neuroscience and certifications in NLP and all the leadership stuff I've done, I realized that there was a in my research for the book, there's this big disconnect between what leaders say they're going to do and what they do. And it's like, if you're a parent and you tell your kids this is going to happen if you don't do that, and then consequences, and then you don't follow through, then they learn not to trust you, not to believe in you. And so managers are guilty of the same thing. So I'd like to shift that and create a congruency between your words and your actions. And that's part of the basis of the book, The Team Whisperer.
I think we're going to have to do some work together. Because with the global dream makers, with the dream maker matrix, right? And we're just jumping right on into it. You know, with the Dreammaker Matrix, what we help people to see for themselves and in their lives is how that inspiration that comes to you, you know, the essence of what it is that you want to act on, is expressed through everything you say and do. It's expressed through the work that you do. So, of course, you want to show up expressing who you are in the job that you're in. And for those who are the managers or the supervisors or the leaders within their organizations, it is so critical that they be doing something that expresses who they are and what they value. And if not, it's disastrous. It's disastrous.
It is, and I think something we learned in this global shift that we all went through is that sadly, a lot of people passed away. A lot of people reevaluated their life, which is a good thing. And a lot of other shifts happened. So that what happened was managers were just pulled up from the ranks and given no training. Like, you're in charge now of this division, you know, because they were the most consistent person in that position previously. And companies aren't giving people the training that they deserve to be leaders. And they have the budget and they have the time. And I don't know why they're not doing it, but you give a person who's been with a company for a while a promotion, that gives them faith. And then they hop into this thing. They're like, I don't know how to lead these people. So-and-so's talking over here. So-and-so's always on their phone. So-and-so's always shopping on Amazon. And it's like, how do you become the leader that rallies these people into a company that's super successful? And it just comes with some basic skills that not everybody has. They weren't taught growing up from their own family, right? And then maybe they didn't have a manager who was a leader, so they didn't get to model it. So it's kind of like, you know, a broken family that can be whole again with the proper direction and listening skills and support and motivation.
Well, you know, I remember what it was like the first time I was in a position of authority. And you're right. We don't learn the perspective of how to be a leader, or even what a leader is and what a leader does in relation to those that they lead. It's not something most of us have grown up with. Yet many more now, especially since millions are wanting to become entrepreneurs. They're stepping into that leadership position. What does that mean for them? And so we can go down that road, but I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
I want to back up a little bit because this is where it's really juicy. This is where this is the pivot point. This is where everything changes, right? No,
Yes.
Depending on what your choice is in this point of who am I and what am I aligning with, you know, my values, my purpose, you know, my vision, you know, how can, let's go into how can that understanding affect how I'm communicating and the alignment or lack of alignment thereof. Let's talk in that little space, which it's kind of like that's where the I'm thinking, what do they call a little space where the atoms are and you get them really tight together and then all of a sudden they explode.
Right. Yeah. The empty space bigger than the real space.
Yeah. It just goes into galaxies. It's huge. So what do you tell people who, especially well, it doesn't have to be a new leader. It could be a seasoned leader because maybe they've been doing it wrong and they need to learn a new way. How do you bring this to their attention? How do they figure out, oh, I'm out of alignment?
Yes. So that's a great question. I'll break it down into 3 parts. So when I wrote the Team Whisperer, there's a chapter in there on, well, it's called successfully manage a cross-generation race and gender team. So leaders that were born, you know, in the 40s, 50s, even 60s, that are still in the workplace have a different mindset than the 20-year-olds, you know, or even the 30-year-olds. And so the way they lead is not wrong, it's just antiquated, right? So like, Baylan, if you and I wanted to meet together by a telephone hooked into the wall, we could not do this. And that's what happens in leadership when you're like, just use the phone, just pick up the phone. We always use the phone, you know. So for older leaders, you know, people have been doing this a long time. When they resist that things have changed and things are different and it requires different language, different thought processes, different ways to get to the outcome, then they flourish. But sometimes they just don't know, you know, we can't know what we don't know. And so that's why it's important to have more of a team, a tribe, you know, a global perspective, and then be open to the fact that, okay, these are all good ideas that I've never considered. You know, so it's not that I'm wrong, it's just that I didn't realize that there was so much more out there. So the first step is awareness, like being open to, it's not my way or the highway, which is an antiquated way of thinking. Because again, times are so different and changing almost every year, like not every decade, things are changing almost every year. And so awareness is the first thing. And then the second thing is to let people know, look, I'm the leader, and I get that, and you're looking to me for leadership, and I'm a better leader when I understand all the positions. And your position, and your position, and your position, and you all matter. And when people feel seen and heard, they feel appreciated, and they want to show up for work. Right? So you have awareness, and then you have, you know, the ability to know that you may be the leader, but you're just the leader. Like you have the puzzle and you can see the whole thing, but there's pieces missing, and you need these folks, you know, on your team to bring those missing pieces. And then you really show gratitude and appreciation for what they bring to the table. And then the last thing for leaders is to remember that we're always growing, and you know, there's always courses and workshops and things to learn. And if you think that you know it all because you've been at it for 20, 30, 40 years, then you are not a good leader. And I'm going to say that flat out. You are not a good leader. And I don't like to, you know, speak poorly of people, but anybody who thinks they know it all knows a lot about the past, which is great. It's a nice foundation, but to go forward, you've got to be open to reading the books and the workshops and talking to people with an open mind. So you don't interrupt, no passing judgment. You take all of it in, and then you process it, and then you make it yours in a new way. And I don't think that's that hard. It just begins with wanting to do it. It begins with choice.
And you know, that's I think the difficult thing is making them aware that that change is good, and that while the way that you have been thinking has been valuable to get us to this point,
Yes.
it's not going to get us where we need to go
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
There are other ways that can be added in. You know, you don't necessarily have to do a 360, you know.
Right.
Change can happen gradually, but change has to happen, because if you're not changing, you're not growing, you're not growing, you're not living. And if you're not living, you're dying. And who wants that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're either green and growing or you're rotting and dying. And you know, that you said that reminded me of this really cool memory of many years ago. I was a chaperone at the high school dance, right? And there was this the most gorgeous girl in the school. And so to raise money for the school, we were selling snacks and, you know, pop and water and stuff, right? And so I'm talking to these two fellows who are, you know, what people would call nerdy, really fun, intelligent guys. And this beauty queen, so to speak, walks up and she's like, "Hi, guys. I'm so thirsty. Can you buy me a water?" And they looked at each other and they're like, "Sorry, we didn't bring any cash." And she's like, "Oh," you know, and then she walks away. And I was like, "Dang, guys, you didn't have 50 cents?" And they said, "Yeah, we have 50 cents, but we need to teach her that beauty can only take you so far, but not all the way."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, I just learned a solid lesson from two 16-year-old kids in high school. Not that I needed beauty to, you know what I mean? But what I remember every time I think of that, and thank you for reminding me of that memory, is that we have our skills and talents that take us so far, but then if we don't get what we want or we feel stuck, then it's time to explore why that happened.
And you know, I'm thinking of so many people that I know who are who have built their careers on the wisdom and the ways of war.
Mm-hmm.
And through centuries. And
Yes.
those have been very effective up to a point. And we now have to shift to how do we work
Mm-hmm.
together in peace?
Mm-hmm.
How do we work together in peace? Communication is so important for that. The intention that people are coming from is critical. Critical. So your self-awareness is critical. Critical.
Yes.
What do you find are the problems that people run into when it comes to the very basic piece of, you know, who am I communicating as? Where
Mm-hmm.
am I coming from? Where do
Yeah.
they run into problems?
And again, it's a generational thing, right? Where these hurdles are get created. Yet
Yeah.
at the same time, we can look at, because majority of the leaders are still men, males. And so there's a way that males are taught, right? Like, this is how you prove your leadership and this, that, and the other thing. And so one of the things that is paramount to the Team Whisperer certification is emotional intelligence. And so we spend time on what's called gut feelings. We all have them as humans. What they feel like, what they sound like, how they come to us may vary. And so when a masculine type person is taught, don't trust your intuition, AKA gut feelings, they're not going to be as an empathetic and inspirational leader. There's huge value in the gut feelings. And so somehow when we started bringing this stuff into leadership, I don't know who gets the credit for this horrible tag of what's called woo woo. And so they're like, "Oh, you train the woo woo, or you teach the woo woo." I don't, you know what? I probably could figure it out if I wanted to, but I don't want to be honest with you. What I'd like to do is be a leadership of change and to help people understand that there's nothing woo about a gut feeling. There's nothing woo about intuition. All, you know, almost all humans experience these things, and they make you a better leader when you embrace them. So when someone can learn that something doesn't feel right, then it's incongruent with who they are as a human and their purpose. And then so their leadership will suffer, their personal relationships will suffer, their company will suffer, because they're living a life that's incongruent. So there's things like, we say we want this and then we don't do it. Well, we don't do it because it's incongruent with who we are. It's not authentic. And so finding our authenticity is really, I've found, intimidating and scary for a lot of masculine based leaders. And I'm not judging them at all. I'm just saying, you've done all of this already. You've read all the leadership books. You've read, you know, the war. Like, do you want to master peace? You know, as Jason Mraz says, or do you want to master war? You know, it doesn't have to be a fight. And, but somehow they've been taught that it's them or us, you know, it's Pepsi versus Coke. It's, you know, it's Apple versus Microsoft. It's crazy. It does not have to be that way. As you know, it's a global planet. There's more than enough for everybody. And so be congruent and authentic in your words and actions, and people will want to be with you. They'll want to follow you. They'll want to buy your products. To me, it's that simple.
It really is, isn't it? It really is that simple. And it's actually takes courage.
Yes.
It takes courage to actually say the words, what I really want is, you know, my vision is, to actually put yourself out there on the line can feel pretty vulnerable for most people. And that's probably why many are hesitant to do so. Yet, the ripple that creates, you know, the wave that starts can shift your entire organization. It will clearly shift your life because you're showing up in a new way, right? But it can shift your entire organization because, oh, now everything has to realign. Everything has to resonate to the new vibe, to the new, oh, this is the direction that we're going. I thought we were going south. We're actually going southwest.
Yeah.
We're more clear now. We're more clear now. And those people who say, oh, I thought we were going north, well, they're going to jump ship. Okay, that's all right. You're just going somewhere we're not going. So change can mean upheaval. It can mean that you'll lose team members, but it also means that you'll have new ones that'll come in that now say, hey, this is where I belong. I'm going southwest.
Yes.
Not the airline.
When traveling, like in business or anything, right? And you start to feel this, like, oh, this doesn't feel right, or it's incongruent, or why are we stagnant? Why are we losing clients? Why, you know? And so people aren't willing to walk backwards to go forward. So they'll continue on that same path that's not working, instead of realizing that there's going to be a little, you know, so maybe you're going to lose money, maybe you're going to lose coworkers, or maybe, you know, and it's crucial to be able to get on the next path. And many years ago, I used to go to this fitness convention. Well, I've been going for decades, but it happened to be in Las Vegas one year. And I had a friend that said, well, you stay at my condo for free because I just like to have people there, right? This is amazing, right? So free condo, gives me the directions. Okay, people, this was a long time ago. So it was what was that thing called? It was a book of a map that you flip the pages.
The Thomas Guide.
So my sister's with me and we're trying to find this condo, and he said it's not too far from the convention center. So we're driving like 10 minutes, and my sister and I are enjoying each other's conversation, but we're like way 10 minutes past the convention center. We're kind of like getting out into the desert. And so I said, God, can you give me a sign to where this condo is? Because I think we're lost. And a second later, we pass a sign that says, welcome to California.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. I guess we'll turn around because we all know this is in Nevada. It's not in California. And so this is just one of thousands of examples that I can give you about when you open up to the gut feeling, right? Like, I knew we felt lost. This didn't feel good. You know, it wasn't horrible because we were having great conversation, but, you know, I needed a stronger call to action. So when we follow our intuition, when we follow our gut, sometimes it takes courage. You know, people don't like to admit they're lost. People don't like to admit that they need help. Which is sad, and I understand why. Like, I have a lot of empathy for why. When my husband passed away from an aneurysm suddenly 4 years ago, I had a lot of trouble asking for help because I'd always been the one everybody else came to, for support and encouragement. And I had to maintain that, right? And so finally, when some people were close enough to me that broke through that shell, and I broke down and cried and realized that I needed the support. I was adrift, I was alone, and I kept holding everybody, at bay and at arm's length. And so we learn these lessons in life, hopefully, because this is a fact for most people. So when we grew up, we went through school. So in the United States, it's like, kindergarten, first, second, third, right? Junior high, high school. For some of us, there's a year that you get held back because you didn't learn the lessons properly. And then you have a chance to do it again. You're like, I get it. And then you move forward. Life is the same way. If you don't get the lessons, then you get held back to learn that lesson again. But it shows up in a different way and at a little bit of a higher marker, right? It's a little more painful, a little more embarrassing, a little more whatever. And then as adults, we can be held back more, because generally in school we got held back maybe once, exceptions to the rule. But as adults, we can get held back from a lesson over and over and over again. And so as a leader, it's helpful to look at, why is this happening again? Oh, well, I didn't get the lesson. Well, what's the lesson? Get a coach, dive in, ask questions, lean into people that you trust and appreciate for leadership. And having the courage to do that, I know, is not easy, and at the same time is so worth it. It's so worth it. Yeah.
We're talking of, you're talking about a lot of the little levers that we could trip. We can trip the little levers that will save us so much time. It's we used to call it going slow so you can go fast. Right? It's when you retool, you have to slow down enough to retool so that you can go faster. Right? You can go in and you can just retool. Update. It's oh yes.
I remember in high school when I was lucky enough to have archery as PE. It was one of the, and so somehow at 16, I got this lesson that when you do archery, you pull back, 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 and back, so the arrow can fly. The farther back and the more steady and stable. Like, you can't be like this way back here and think you're going to get somewhere, right? So stability, strength, power, but back, then the arrow flies. So you don't take the arrow like a dart and throw it forward and hope you're going to hit the target, because the target's way out there. It's not like a dartboard, right? And there was something about that, and my living in a trailer park in poverty and all that, was like something about that lesson that was given to me in that moment of, sometimes you're back here because that's how you fly forward. And, that can be encouraging to a leader to know that the steps back enable you to travel farther and further and more direct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's gathering that power also. When you're pulling back, you're gathering the power. And at that moment, just before you release, there's this high level of tension. And then you release the tension. That's what makes it go forward.
Yes.
So a little bit about tension right now, especially I opened up LinkedIn this morning and saw the difficulty of what happened with Wall Street Journal, and a headline and headline pictures that they put out in print. They caught it and changed it online, but the print was already out, right? And it had to do with with race, with a bit about gender, but it was the Wall Street Journal, right? So I think it's making everyone, well, I would hope it would make everyone stop and think about, wait a minute, there's something wrong about that. It's making people look at their thoughts, their feelings about race and gender and equality and within their teams, and hopefully to reflect on how might I be doing some of those things that I unintentionally, perhaps, but to give them that opportunity to look at these things. um, when people are in that inquiry, um, what do you guide them with, or how do you guide them to move forward? Because our teams really are trying to figure out how to do all this with the diversity, the diverse workforce that we have.
Yeah, great question. So, and okay, extemporaneous, I didn't know you were going to ask this. So let's say that they're my client and this happened, it's already done, right? So one of the biggest things that leaders have a problem with is apologizing and retracting, and they call it damage control. So you've already got the wrong language going into it. That is a perfect example of learning a lesson. And so if a leader came out and said, instead of damage control in the background, saying, I appreciate this opportunity for me to realize some things that I didn't know were still automatically processing for me. And so I would like to say, I saw what happened, I heard what happened, I heard what you all said, and things will be different going forward, I promise. I apologize that it took this to make me see that, yet, and I appreciate that I now have the opportunity to shift my thinking, my thoughts, and my actions. So thank you. That would be the way that I would approach it, as opposed to looking at it as damage control where nothing's going to change. So one of my, not sure what name to give it, but my pet peeve is when people say, guys, so hey, you guys, turn the workbook, or hey, you guys, thanks for being here today, or hey, guys, all right, we're going to go on. It just, it's so insensitive to me. And it's not just sexist. I mean, even if you look at Guy Fawkes Day in England, it's like the word guy does not mean a good thing. And so I do my best to help educate people onto there's so many other options, people, folks. All right, everyone, there's so many choices, and people are like, well, everybody knows what I'm talking about. And so I'll just let it go. It's like, it's not their time. It's not their lesson. But one day they might be the Wall Street Journal. One day they might be the New York Times. And they're going to say, so all you guys who have been ignoring this are in trouble now. And then they're going to remember me, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, if I had shifted that when I was exposed to the opportunity, I would not be in this situation right now. So I just use that one minuscule example to be like, we don't realize how we say and do things, a certain way. Because forever as a fitness instructor, I used to say sit Indian style, where you cross your legs. And then when I learned that that was inappropriate many years ago, then I just said cross your legs. Like, why did I have to say Indian style? I don't know, because that's what my generation called it. So we can shift. We can shift if we want to be more global, if we want to be more inclusive, and if we want to be more seen more as a person who has empathy and appreciation for the bigger picture. And again, sometimes, well, not sometimes, it does take effort to break those, right, saying those things. But it just is the willingness to say, I realize that I've been doing that, and I don't want to do that anymore. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
And it's so graceful. It's so graceful when you admit, I'm
Yes.
human, I'm open to learning, and let's move on because we're all here to figure it out together.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so I have two final questions, but
Okay.
before we get to that, are there any other points you wanted to make or things that you wanted to share with us that came up?
I just get so passionate about all of this stuff because, like I said, in my mind, the way I see it is when people don't enjoy their work and they've been there for 10 years, 20 years, and they're just looking forward to retirement and they still have 20 more years to go. And so they're self-medicating at night just so that they can have the courage to show up again tomorrow and do it. Or they, party hard. What do they call them? Weekend warriors, just off gas, just to be able to show up and do this all again. To me, that's heartbreaking. We all have a path, we all have a purpose, we all have a reason for being here. And when as a leader, you can help people find their purpose within their position in your organization, then they're going to want to show up. They're going to love their job. They're going to rave about the company. They're going to rave about their leadership. And I feel like that's really rare. So it's my passion that executives from the top level recognize that your middle leaders and your entry level leaders aren't getting the support they need to be able to, and that's why employee retention is, people will want to show up if the leadership makes them feel seen, heard, and appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, remember when you were down, they should remember when they were at those lower levels. Everybody works their way up, right? Not everybody gets to the top, but everybody tries to, right? To do better than what they're doing. And so that level of recognition can only help the relationships and the way that the energy can move forward together.
Yes.
Build the team. Wonderful. Okay, my second to last question. Okay, you're standing on a mountain and you look down and there are millions of people down there and they're making their way up towards you because you have a message for them. You're the only person on the planet who can give them this message. What will your message be?
And so what's interesting is I feel like I just answered that question in the fact that we are all literally walking, talking, breathing miracles. And because I have a lot of research in neuroscience and from being a fitness professional, anatomy, kinesiology, our bodies are so amazing, right? So if people are coming up, I want them to remember that they are literally walking, talking, breathing miracles. They have value and they have a purpose. And it's not the job of somebody else to help us know that. We know what it is when we go inside and clear the clutter and the distractions and the old antiquated messages. It becomes clear.
Yes, yes, go inside. It all starts there. It all starts there. Okay, and my final question is, if you could speak to all the leaders in the world, all the leaders, whether it's the leader of the family, leader of the community, leader of a country, all the leaders in the world, and you knew that they would listen to you and that they would take to heart what you have to say and perhaps even act on it, what would you tell them?
Baylan, that is such a beautiful, powerful question. And I think with clarity, I can say that the planet is huge with all of these people. And so the people who are under our leadership, so to speak, the people who are following us, the people who are in our family, in our tribe, in our community, are there for a reason. And you're not leading people in these other communities. So when you look at, again, I go back to what I said earlier, think globally, act locally. So if leaders are listening to what I'm saying is look at the people, look at the talent, Look at the diamonds, the skills, the wealth in your own backyard. Cultivate it, polish it, grow it, appreciate it, and love it. Yeah.
That feels so good. Thank you. Thank you, Elle, for coming onto the Leader's Edge and sharing your wisdom. You're one of 12 people on the planet who does what you do, the way that you do it. And we're blessed that you were able to come to us. I'm going to have you come back because I do want to go a little bit more deeper into the teamwork. I think it's so key right now, today, this, not just this year, but this week, this month. Everything is trying to figure out how to move forward, and this is where they need the information. So I'm glad that they'll have this to start to think about. All right.
Wonderful. My pleasure. That's exciting. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. My name is Baylan Megino, the founder of Global Dream Makers. We have been here with Ell Graniel of TrueSpeak. Wow, TrueSpeak, and we will put all of your contact information up. Why don't you let us know, how do people find you, Elle?
Oh, okay, yes. So truespeak.us is, it's the website. It's where to find everything all under one umbrella, so to speak. But Baylan, what I'd like to share today is I also have www.theteamwhisperer, right, which is the book. So the Team Whisperer successfully lead a cross-generation race and gender team. So, I lost my train of thought. The teamwhisperer.us.
Okay.
Anybody can get my PDF digital down version of this. So if a leader heard and was inspired by what you and I chatted about today, so it's here. And then the book can be, it's on Amazon and all the regular places where you can buy a book. But I'm offering my PDFs directed like right into your, and so if even one thing called to you, each chapter in the book says something specifically. So if I said something that really called to you, there's a chapter in the book. So you don't have to read the whole book, you just read the chapter. So the teamwhisperer.us, go there and get your free digital download, because I want this information out there.
Wonderful, wonderful. We will push it out there. It's so needed. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.